Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. We have another Charity Lawson video as she snaps back at Nick Viall. She actually called him a misogynist, not to his face, not with his name, but we all know what she's saying. And then her brother chimes in. You got to love to see it. This is the great land of the free that we live in. She goes on a dating show. Nick comments on it. She snaps back on Nick. The world goes around. I get a payday. Okay, we're going to get into it. It's interesting, and we're going to share some more stuff that Nick said about her. Follow me on Instagram at DNeals, patreon.com/Dave Neal for behind-the-scenes bonus content. We'll be live at 10 a.m. this morning. I'll take you through some show prep, who I'm going to be interviewing on my next episode of Driving with Dave. I'm doing that interview this afternoon. It is somebody who's pretty relevant in the Bachelor world, was on Paradise recently. He actually might still be under contract. I'm not really sure if he's allowed to do this interview, but we're going to talk to him anyway. You'll get that information on today's Patreon and every afternoon Bachelor Rush Hour at the Hit Podcast. So before I get into what Charity said, hold on, let me switch my graphic here. We're doing it on the fly, folks. We're doing it live. Before I get to what Charity said, here's what Nick said, calling her an F-boy. This is our third video. This is what we call a trio of nested Daves. Bachelorette Charity blasted by Nick, and then Charity snaps back. Here's the initial blasting by Nick. Go.
She's a fuckboy magnet.
I mean, she seems aware of it too. She's like, this is an old pattern.
Whoa. So anyway, he calls her an F-boy magnet. And then he actually says more that we don't know which part pissed Charity off, but this couldn't have helped. Have a
Honest
listen.
answer. But I don't like how Charity is rewarding that behavior.
I don't either. I don't think he should have won by saying on one knee. I'm like, you don't know that. You just said that to win, and you did, and this isn't working.
Question, a bit controversial.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Is Charity a recovering pick-me?
Can you define pick me?
Now, is it misogynistic to ask the question? I don't know, maybe.
Does someone who is their default is to prioritize being picked and getting someone that they've decided in their mind that they really like, usually by kind of superficial or looks.
And as we covered this yesterday, I don't know what type of evidence we have to prove that Charity is a pick-me or a recovering pick-me girl. She really has actually been doing quite well. Sure, she was a little defensive when she got dumped by Brayden, and sure, she's trying to manage all the guys' nonsense. She's kind of like how a mom would act when the kids like misbehaving. It's like, oh God, can you boys grow up a little bit? That's kind of how she's acting, but that happens every season.
Chemistry or the spark, and prioritize feeling validated and picked by that person rather than building a strong mutual emotional connection based off of actual compatibility and things like that.
I mean, based off of that answer of her picking Aaron, it's leaning towards that way.
Well, objection, leading the witness.
And giving too much credit for lines like, getting down on one knee, or just knowing she's insisting. And again, it's partly the show's fault because the show wants the leads to say this.
So he kind of knows it's not Charity's fault that she's kind of a puppet for the show, that she's going to say multiple lines. I mean, they're going to record 5 hours of Charity saying different things, and then they're going to place it all together. So, objection, it's all irrelevant because it's not necessarily Charity's thoughts, tones, or actions, and Nick knows that.
But I wish Charity, being the family practitioner, what's her official
objection? Weaponizing her career. Don't you hate it when they do that? Oh, I thought that you would be different due to your X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, oh, come on, she's a human being.
Title,
Licensed
family therapist to validate behaviors thoughtful, hey, I want to take it slow and get to know you and build on this connection. Yeah. Rather than validating someone who doesn't know her saying, I want to get down on one knee.
Yes.
It's a false duality there, really, because it's not like she's doing one versus the other. Brayden, she had invested her time in. She only gets so many God-given roses that she gets to give out to people, and she gave one to Brayden, who then dumped her. So clearly she's upset. We don't hate Brayden for that. He pursued it for his own good, and it didn't go where he wanted to. But it's kind of like if you date someone for 7 years in your 30s, and then all of a sudden they're like, I don't really see this going anywhere. And it's like, well, thanks a lot, Jonathan. You wasted year 33 to year 40 of my life. You know what I mean? We've all been there.
I'm here for you. I'm only here to get engaged to you. In fact, I wish Charity would reward the possibility of one of the guys saying, you're an amazing person, Charity. there's so much about you that I admire, but I just don't know if we're compatible. And as a result, I think maybe just I should leave.
Now, look, I get that the show is built on a stupid premise that they have to get engaged. I get all of that. But, Nick has to get that too. Yes, he was on the show. He understands. He even tells you that you don't even go on the show to find love. I mean, all you have to do is this. Look, I've showed this before, and again, I know he's watching it like objectively as a fan and not as a former cast member, although he kind of goes back and forth, and he's allowed to do that. But all you got to do is go to his tagged photos. I didn't even have this prepared here, right? And if you just go down, you can hear him right here tell you nobody goes there to get engaged.
I really want to talk about your time on The Bachelor, because I would assume you have no problem finding women. So why join a show that ends in marriage?
Well, I don't think anyone actually goes for love.
T.
All right, so anyway, you get the point, right? You get the point. Like, the shows, come on. If we're going to watch it and pretend that it's real, then that's what we have to do. But you've been on the show. You know that, don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining is the whole idea.
Often said that going back on The Bachelor, in my 20s, I was a serial monogamist. I had a lot of bad breakups and did a lot of self-work. And I felt like I really kind of found myself in my late 20s, early 30s. And then I went on The Bachelor. And then I've said this, where I felt like I basically relapsed back into who I was as a 21-year-old.
So that's their sort of reasoning for why Charity is a reformed pick-me girl, that she's going back to how she was. And look, the show will create a scenario that does take you out of reality, very much like a cult, absolutely. But we haven't seen that evidence. We haven't seen that evidence that Charity, she's got to, she can't get rid of everybody. She can't go, all right, I like Dotun and Xavier, the rest of you can go kick rocks. No, she has to keep Aaron. She has to keep Jonathan or whatever. She has to keep different people, but it doesn't mean she's a pick-me girl. I don't know. I'm just not seeing it. Let me know if you guys are. So here's what Charity says. So initially she said this on her threads. And you go, okay, she said it on her threads, not that big of a deal. She said, maybe it's time we stop getting dating advice from unqualified TV personalities who like bashing women for the sake of views. Now, Nick did come off harsh because he was impersonating Charity. When she got dumped, he was like, oh, he was doing that whole thing, and it's like, okay, look, maybe she was flustered a little bit, but let's give her a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. She's in a very heightened state of mind here on the TV show, right? So she posted on threads, and you go, all right, well, maybe that was meant for a private audience. And then she shares that to her Instagram, and she furthers her thoughts and says, misogynistic men, now that's icky behavior. Now, I'm going to get to what her brother said in a second, but boy, do we love to hear what Reality Steve has to say when it involves Nick. I'm like the middle child. You guys watch Succession, the TV show? These adult children are just bickering back and forth. And I kind of feel like I'm the one who just likes to hear everyone else fight. Here's what Steve had to say.
To the biggest news of yesterday, which was, hey, Charity Lawson decided to wake up and choose violence yesterday as she absolutely went after our good buddy, Prick Viall, yesterday. So,
Steve, tell us
first
how you
off,
really
let's read
feel.
the tweet. Charity sends out a tweet yesterday morning that says,
right, so
make
you got the tweet
Instagram
already.
story, and then added on top of that, misogynistic men, now that's icky behavior.
So I texted that to Steve. I said, "Did you see what because whenever we we catch up on something, we'll be like, oh, we'll comment back and forth or whatever." And I sent that to him, and he goes, "Yeah, what's the big deal? She already said that." And I was like, "No, look closer or whatever." And he goes, "Oh shoot, yeah, she just added this little boop byline right there." Now look, here's the deal. Nick Viall. He prints money, right? He's got a very successful podcast. He's allowed to have the opinion that he has. And we can also listen to other opinions.
What this is in response to what Prick Viall said in his episode review in regards to Charity on, I don't know what day it comes out, but after the episode, he basically, I got an email, and it came from AOL. I know. I still have an AOL email address.
All right, so he explains what Nick said that ticked her off. Let's hear the opinion.
Because Charity just wants to have sex with Xavier. I mean,
Yeah, well, and this is what Charity's brother's going to say. It's like, it's one thing to have an opinion, but it's another thing to state things as facts. And that's kind of, you have to kind of be careful when you're sharing your opinion versus like, oh, I think she might be into him for this reason versus she doesn't like this guy. She just wants to bang that guy. It's like, we're watching a dang TV show. We don't know what Charity's thinking.
I guess. How do I describe this? I guess it's almost better that he's doing this because I don't know how many more times this guy needs to put his foot in his mouth and talk about women in this franchise the way he does before people start really seeing who he is.
Whoa.
Whoa. The guy who came after me for what I used to say. Judge?
Dave Neal's like a big person in like Bachelor YouTube, believe it or not.
And then Exhibit B, and Exhibit C,
that's not what I meant
and Exhibit D. How many more times does he have to say things like this
You're despicable.
before people start realizing, yeah, maybe we shouldn't be taking any sort of woman advice from this man? And look.
We may scrap this whole thing, to be
honest here.
I don't know.
This has absolutely nothing to do with any sort of podcast war with this guy. My beef with Prick Viall has everything to do with the interactions I have personally had with him. And I don't care if you think I'm pimping for Dave, saying, don't like that guy. It is personal interactions, things that he has said about me that are factually incorrect.
Does he have like
the podcast that we did together was an absolute joke. He went in with an agenda. He thought he accomplished that agenda until it actually aired. And it completely backfired on him and then took zero responsibility for it. You can say when you watch the show, I don't like this person. Even some people say I hate this person that they're watching on TV. I think that's extreme. That's kind of ridiculous. How can you hate somebody that you don't even know? I can't say I hate Prick, but I really dislike the guy. And I have very little respect for him. And it's because of my personal dealings with him. Nothing that has to do with, podcast stuff. Other than the podcast I was on with him. I'm just saying, like, as a podcaster, a fellow podcaster, nothing to do with that. I know he's got a successful podcast. He gets more downloads than I do. He's probably got the second most successful podcast in all of Bachelor Nation. And that's fine. I'm just saying when I talk podcast stuff, it has nothing to do with the fact that he gets the screeners early and can watch the episode early and he can get, eliminated contestants fresh off the show, which I'd love to do, but they're just never going to do it. They're never going to give it to the guy that spoils their show. So it has nothing to do with that sort of podcast stuff. It has everything to do with my personal interaction with him. But, the examples are starting to pile up on the things that he says about women in this franchise.
Wow, I didn't know Steve was going to go this hard into Nick. Hey, don't get mad. Listen, he's allowed his opinion. If you guys aren't familiar, Reality Steve went on Nick's podcast. Nick, I guess, planned on eviscerating him, but afterwards, the fallout was so bad for Nick that he was kind of like, oh, Reality Steve's fan got some real loyal fans out there. And it's like, well, no, that's just an audience. That's like the free market saying, Nick, you didn't handle this right. And then Nick actually ended up apologizing. So their bad blood has gone on for a while here. Now, do I have the evidence to call Nick sort of a misogynist? Or I don't know. Because he obviously treats a lot of the male contestants with sort of a lot of disgust, disdain as well. So I don't know. I don't have the facts. I don't know if Bachelor Data is willing to go into which gender he's called out more. I'm not really sure how that works out, but clearly there is developing a through line here to the alumni that are upset with Nick.
And I'm glad that Charity saw him and called him out for it. But here's the other thing. Just like all the past instances that have happened, Nick will put his tail between his legs and he won't even address it.
You cut the crap.
That's the embarrassing part. Because she's absolutely calling him out and he won't even address it. And if he does, it'll be, she's being so sensitive. Can't she take a joke? That's the way he won't say, you know what? I thought about what I said, and that was out of line. I shouldn't have called Charity a fuckboy magnet.
Bye, loser.
I shouldn't have said Charity just wants to have sex with Xavier.
You're despicable.
He'll never say that in a million years, even though he should. It's like, dude, you're just recapping a Bachelor show and you're literally attacking this woman's moral compass, her personality, what she's attracted to. Not just saying, oh, Charity playing, a producer role here and saying that I get when he can go in and knowing what it is to be a lead on the show, knowing how the ins and outs works, and you kind of have to play along. Like,
hey, Steve, I wish you would tell us how you really feel. Very interesting stuff. And look, hey, this is the stuff. This is the stuff Nick does that gets views. I mean, he gets a lot of views and clicks based on his strong and brazen opinions on these types of matters. Sometimes there's a reality attached to it, and sometimes there isn't. I don't understand asking the question about her being a reformed pick-me girl, how that relates to her. I just don't get it. Now, with that said, we've got Charity's brother chiming in. This is what he had to say. Of course, we know Charity's brother. Actually, let's go back to what Charity's brother, I think we have him right here. Here's Charity and her brother making a TikTok. How cute are they? It's one of those TikToks where you just act over some sound.
Clown? He's a clown.
And the thing says he's a clown. What did I do, right? And it says, when I didn't listen to my brother night one. And there's her brother saying, told you he was a clown. Look, this is harmless fun. You know what I mean? This is harmless fun. Now, do I think Braden's a clown? No, I think Braden's trying the best with the info he has at the time period of his life. I think he's trying the best here, and I think she's having fun with it. I don't think there's any ill will. I think at the men tell all, I don't think there'll be any ill will. We'll have to see how it all plays out. But here's Charity's brother anyway, the old bartender from night one. Y'all really got to stop getting on podcasts just to say whatever. No coherence, no logic, no experience on the subject matter. Just loud and wrong. There's fact, then there's opinion. Now, could he be talking about the latest guest on Joe Rogan? Yeah, I don't know. But also, would it be crazy to think that maybe he's talking about his baby sister and how Nick's kind of coming after her? We'll have to see how this all plays out. I'd love to know your opinion on this matter, folks. Who's in the right here? Nick Viall? Reality Steve? Somewhere in between? Charity? Her brother? Wars are breaking out, and we're not even halfway through the season. We'll cover more of this on Bachelor Rush Hour, the podcast today, because I'm sure there'll be more breaking. This is one of those developing stories where people keep talking, and I'm like, hey guys, it's Friday, it's a beach weekend. Can we wrap this up right now? Oh no, we're just beginning. More content coming to you guys right after this.